Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and thank you for tuning in. First on the docket, a Gannon Stauch case update. Guess what? Letecia doesn't want to wait for her day in court. An attempted jailbreak. Second, a Maud Arbery case. Preliminary hearing goes today. Didn't help any of the defendants at all. Third, an update on the Tessa Majors case in New York. And our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and thank you for tuning in. First, we have an announcement to make. We're going live tonight, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. What we do know for sure is that we are going to be on Facebook, and we hope to be up and ready on YouTube. But even though we're out of detention, they haven't apparently flipped the switch just yet. But we're going to do that tonight. Now, if you haven't done so already, we'd ask that you please hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment, hit the like button, and hit that little bell so that you receive notifications of when we go live or put out a new video. First on the docket, the Gannon Stauch case. Well, for those of you who've been following the Gannon Stauch case here in El Paso County, Colorado, you are then familiar with Letecia Stauch. She was the stepmother of the 11-year-old, and she is accused of murder. And specifically, she is accused of the murder of Gannon Stauch. She is accused of disposing of his body. And then when she was ultimately arrested, coming back through Kansas on the extradition, she slipped out of her handcuffs and actually got into a little altercation with the police there. No charges just as of yet. However, Letecia Stauch now has some new charges coming down, and she's going to appear in court tomorrow. What, pray tell, could those charges be? That's right, solicitation for attempted escape. Letecia Stauch will formally be charged of one count of solicitation to commit escape. Apparently, Letecia Stauch was involved in a scheme using a broom handle to bust her cell window with the help of fellow inmates. Apparently, somebody got cold feet. The fellow inmate apparently told the deputies of the plan, and she was worried that she would get her own charges if, in fact, she helped Miss Letecia Stauch in any way. Being the diligent sheriff deputies that they are, the El Paso County sheriffs then went into the cell of Letecia Stauch. And remember, they can search your cell whenever they want when you're in custody. Why, you may ask? Because there's no expectation of privacy in prison. Well, in there they found a couple of notes. Apparently, they were partially written in code, and Stauch told the other inmate that a family member had deposited $75,000 into a checking account and suggested that she would be willing to share in that money in exchange for her help to escape. According to the affidavit, Stauch wrote, quote, "You have my word to make sure we are MIA. I got us covered," end quote. Stauch apparently was so confident she bragged about the fact that she had measured herself and knew that she would fit through the window. She needed the other inmate to provide the broom handle. Stauch is segregated from other inmates, and the only way allowed from out of the cell is 1 hour per day. During this time, she apparently spends her time alone. She's also classified as an escape risk, and she's shackled anytime deputies take her outside of the facility. During the shakedown of Letecia Stauch's cell, they also found a letter to her daughter. And in that note to her daughter, Letecia states, quote, "If something comes up on the news like she is no longer in the jail or missing, do not be afraid," end quote. Letecia Stauch is a hot mess. She is so going to prison. Although she is given the presumption of innocence, and we will give that to her, she is certainly not creating an image of an innocent woman. Someone who says, I am innocent, and I am not going to be afraid of these charges. I'm going to face these charges, and that I am going to simply have my case heard in court. Doesn't try to escape, not once, not twice, right? It doesn't happen that way. That's what they call consciousness of guilt. Why do you have to escape if you have nothing to worry about? Clearly, she has something to worry about. I don't know what world she is living in, but she clearly does not have a grasp on reality, in the sense that she first thought that she could get away with the alleged crimes, and second, now that she thinks she could escape from the El Paso County Sheriff's Department. This case will more than likely trail the homicide case, because frankly, the homicide case will rule if she is ultimately convicted. The homicide case, if she is convicted of first-degree murder of Gannon Stauch, she would receive a life sentence without parole, without any possibility of parole. The escape case, not that big a deal in the big picture, and the witnesses are easy. They're available. The only time a prosecutor would try to bring in maybe less serious charges before the homicide trial would be to admit the evidence as what they call 404B evidence, to basically show consciousness of guilt, but also the mere fact that they were going to try and file bitch counts on somebody, habitual counts. She doesn't have any prior criminal history, so it's not really an issue in this case. We'll keep watching. The circus apparently has arrived in town, and it's in El Paso County. Next on the docket, an update on the Ahmaud Arbery case. For those of you who do not recall, Mr. Arbery was the victim in a case where the McMicheals father and son team, as well as William Roddy Bryan, have all been charged with the death of Mr. Arbery. That preliminary hearing was set for today, and it went for some 7 hours. Nothing particularly helpful to the defense at all. Georgia Bureau of Investigation Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Richard Dial, testified that Mr. Bryan told police that Travis McMichael said, quote, effing N-word after 3 blasts from his shotgun left Arbery dead in the street. Now remember, Mr. Bryan is a co-defendant of the case. Mr. Bryan, through his attorneys, turned over these videos of this case. Mr. Bryan tried to claim that he was simply a mere witness to this whole thing. Clearly, the evidence that came out today showed that wasn't exactly the case. There was also testimony today, and it's apparently visible on body cam footage, that shows a Confederate flag sticker on the toolbox of the McMicheals truck. And apparently, to add to Mr. Bryan's issues as it relates to his credibility, he did not mention the racial slur by the younger McMicheals until the interview he had on May 13th, and he didn't mention it on the May 11th interview. There apparently was also searches on the phone as well as social media, which show that the younger Mr. McMichael oftentimes used very inflammatory language, including the N-word. In fact, there were quotes that he was glad that he was working at a particular location because there were no N people there. The police brought this information up along with the McMicheals as well as Mr. Bryan, because apparently his social media and messages also included racial terms and indicated he may have a prejudice specifically as it relates to Mr. Arbery and his race. The police believe that the reason why they pursued Mr. Arbery was because of their racial prejudices. Special Agent Dial stated that they extrapolated the reasons why he made the assumptions that he did. For example, he said he saw a man running down the road with a truck following him, and he believed he made certain assumptions that were at least in part based upon his racial biases. What has been in some dispute, and I can tell you I received lots of comments about it in previous videos that we have done on this subject, But the special agent outlined that before Mr. Arbery was shot, he apparently was hit by a truck as he tried to escape the McMicheals. Specifically, Agent Dial was asked whether he thought Mr. Arbery could have been acting in self-defense, and Special Agent Dial said he believed that to be the opposite. He stated, Mr. Arbery was being pursued. He ran till he couldn't run anymore, and it was turn his back to a man with a shotgun or fight with his bare hands against the man with the shotgun. He chose to fight, Special Agent Dial stated. I believe Mr. Arbery's decision was to just try to get away, and when he felt that he couldn't escape, he chose to fight. Agent Dial also testified to the fact that as Travis and Gregory McMichael attempted to head off Mr. Arbery, he turned and ran past the truck of Mr. Bryan, who filmed the actual killing in this case. And Bryan struck Arbery on the side of his truck. Mr. Bryan stated to the police in an interview that at one point he thought that Arbery was trying to enter his truck. Dial said, adding that he didn't know if that was true, but felt that Arbery was trying to escape. Apparently, investigators found a swipe of a palm print on the rear door of Mr. Bryan's truck, cotton fibers near the truck bed that they attribute to the contact with the truck with Mr. Arbery, as well as a dent below the fibers. So, what does this tell us? Well, obviously things did not go well, as the chief magistrate who heard these matters bound all cases over for trial at the district court level. Also, what did we learn? We also learned the fact that on body cam interviews, the McMicheals could not say with certain that they were aware that Mr. Arbery had taken anything from the house. And we know from previous statements that nothing had in fact been taken. Why is that significant? Well, that takes away the whole, I'm there to do a citizen's arrest argument. What does it also show? Based upon what we learned today, it also shows that the McMicheals were the initial aggressors. And what do we know about the initial aggressor law in the state of Georgia? You can't be the initial aggressor and then claim self-defense. Not gonna work. Now, even if Mr. Bryan or the senior Mr. McMicheal are going to say, hey, we didn't do anything wrong, we were just along for the ride. Well, we've heard a lot about it in the last couple days. It's called complicity. If you aid, encourage, assist somebody in the offense, you are guilty just like you had been the principal of the crime itself. You can't go along for the ride and then act like, well, I didn't do anything. Well, you did. In this particular case, Mr. Bryan is charged with the pursuit and basically blocking of Mr. Arbery, which is the basis for the felony murder charge. We'll see if the defense has anything spectacular to offer. Obviously, they're a defense attorney. I'm a defense attorney. They're going to do everything they can to zealously represent their client. They made some pretty bold statements that a lot of new information that was going to come out and was going to change the whole complexion of this case. Guess what? If they had it, they probably should have hinted towards it today if they, in fact, wanted to have their clients get out on bond when they actually have that bond hearing, because the judge can consider the weight and sufficiency of the evidence as it relates to the charges and whether bond would, in fact, be appropriate. What we've also learned is that there was apparently quite a bit of information available that obviously we learned about today. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation learned about rather quickly from taking the case over. So I think there should really be an investigation as it relates to the district attorneys as to why they didn't feel this case was appropriate for charges. Now, as we've all heard about the George Floyd case in the last several weeks, there's been a lot of talk about police. Well, it's not just the police. we have to look towards the judges and we have to look towards the prosecutors. We have prosecutors out there that always err on the side of every police officer is pure as the clean driven snow and could never do any wrong. We all know that is not true. There are very good officers, but there are bad ones too. And if you allow the bad ones to get a free pass, they think they can get away with it. The covering for everyone has to stop. And I would note that the attorney for releasing that or advising that it should in fact be released or leaking it because it was going to bring the story to light, I'm not sure he was working in the best interest of his client, because that video, when I first saw it, thought that didn't help his client in any way possible. Just saying. Next on the docket, an update on the Tessa Majors case in New York City. Well, yesterday, one of the teens involved in the case related to Tessa Majors pled guilty. A 14-year-old boy who is not charged as an adult appeared via WebEx or Zoom, whatever you want to call the particular platform they're on, telling the court that about the December 2019 night that he went into Morningside Park in Manhattan with two friends, Rashawn Weaver and Lucy Lewis. The teen stated, "We went to the park planning to rob someone." The boy stated in a statement read in court, "After that, we saw Tessa Majors walking on the stairs inside the park. Rashawn went up to her and said something to her, and Tessa yelled for help. Rashawn used the knife that I had handed to him to stab Tessa, and I saw the feathers come out of her coat." The teen stated in court that Weaver and Lewis ran out of the park together. Weaver and Lewis each face multiple murder and robbery charges. Those two gentlemen are charged as an adult, and they entered pleas of not guilty back in February. This is a classic example of what we just talked about. It's called complicity. Complicity is not an offense. Complicity is a theory of prosecution to charge someone as a principal of a crime. Here is a classic example. The teen passes the knife to somebody, and they're all aware of the circumstances that they are going to go rob somebody. The teens probably didn't know that anyone was going to get stabbed in any way, let alone die. But when somebody dies in the commission of an offense, usually like a robbery, a burglary, that is what you refer to as felony murder. Doesn't matter if you intended it. It just means that you're going to prison for a very long time. And it also explains complicity. You're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. Bottom line, bad news. Make good decisions out there, ladies and gentlemen. Good decisions. Don't let your kids be out in the park after dark. Nothing good happens after dark in parks. We will continue to follow the cases of the two adults in the Tessa Majors case. Now, next on the docket, a quick obscene profit break. That's right. We here at Crime Talk have expenses, and we would like to help offset some of those expenses by having sponsors. And in this particular case, if you go to crimetalksearch.com, you can help one of our sponsors help Crime Talk. And if you go there, you can go to People Finder. And People Finder has a program where you can pay $4.95 for a subscription, and you can cancel at any time. But you have the ability to go and search and find information on just about anyone here in the United States. They will search databases all over the country in a matter of minutes that if you wanted to do it would take weeks to compile the same information. It's inexpensive, it's reasonably priced, and I can tell you we have used it at our law firm, and it has saved me a lot of time and clients a lot of money. We ask that you give it a shot. No one's begging you to go do anything, but I think that you will like the service. And if you don't like it, you can cancel. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and I'm here to tell you that everyone should have a background check subscription. Information is power. The more information you have, the better decisions you can make. Who would you possibly think you need to search? Well, how about the babysitter, the babysitter's parents, your kids, your kids' friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, anyone you're going to date, and maybe someone you just don't get that warm, fuzzy feeling at work. Go to the link, sign up for your easy subscription that you can cancel at any time, check social media presence, convictions, sex offender status, bankruptcies, and property. You could spend weeks doing what people finders can do in a matter of minutes. I have personally used this product. It has saved me a lot of time and clients a lot of money. I recommend you give it a try. Next on the docket, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. It's actually two. It's a husband and wife duo, so they can share the mug potentially when they get out of prison. How can I do this without not laughing? If I had known it was this simple to make things happen for my clients, we should have been doing this years ago. So on Sunday, our dumb criminal contestant, number one, Rodney Wheeler, reported that his wife, Julie Wheeler, had fallen from an overlook at the River Gorge while they were out hiking together at the Grandview State Park. Of course, the authorities immediately launched a search for the missing mother of two. Helicopters were deployed, diving crews dispatched to search the waters in the gorge, sniffer dogs. The full-scale search went on. But Tuesday, Julie was discovered hiding in a closet at her home in Beaver by state police who had called around to pick up items pertaining to the search. It is now alleged that Julie and Rodney concocted her disappearance so that she could avoid some upcoming jail time. Yes, she simply complicated the more simple prospect. Well, it turns out that Julie had pled guilty to healthcare fraud and was due to be sentenced in court on June 17th. She faces up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. And it appears that the family, not only husband and wife, employed their son to help out as well, because apparently Rodney, along with his son, allegedly planted several items of Julie near the cliff to make it look like she had actually fallen from the cliff. Rodney even put something out on Facebook stating information about the accident. His wife hadn't been found yet, but they're hoping that she's going to be found and that she's okay. And he thanked everyone for keeping them in their thoughts and prayers. And apparently, Julie didn't think that things were going to go too well at that sentencing on June 17th because she had to pay for her crimes. She was looking at paying $469,000 in restitution for the fraud committed on the Veterans Administration. Apparently, she was a caretaker for an individual with spina bifida, and she was earning $736 per day for providing care. Apparently, Julie's not exactly good with the truth, and she hadn't been doing that, but she had been collecting the money for at least 18 months. So apparently, these two geniuses thought that if she disappeared, she wouldn't have to pay restitution, she wouldn't have to pay a fine, and she could avoid prison time. Where did these two geniuses think they were going to go? Apparently to the closet? Really? That's right. Julie and Rodney, you are our dumb criminal contestants of the day. And obviously, if you do win, and I'm telling you, you're in a strong first place as of right now, you could receive a Crime Talk mug. You would only have to contact us at scott@scottreisch.com, and we would provide it to you at no expense to you. Why? Because we know you're going to have a lot of fines and restitutions coming your way. Thanks for watching today. We will be going live, certainly on Facebook, hopefully on YouTube at 6 p.m. Mountain Time today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tonight on Crime Talk.